your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you folks for joining us here on our special edition of Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., that is today, and we're talking about all of the good things that we bring your way, and on a weekly basis, Monday through Friday, we're here from 8 to 9 a.m., and we stream live at all of those times at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts, and they are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we're on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. We hope that you will go there with 9 opportunities, with 9 different topics, 9 different guests, 9 different conversations for you to tune into. This is an opportunity for you to appropriately eavesdrop. We want you to eavesdrop on these programs, and we hope that you will, as well as subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you can eavesdrop if you'd like. And we encourage that here on Tell Me Your Story. Also, a reminder that the book Choices, 5 Steps for Life is available now at Amazon in hardcover, paperback, as well as Kindle. Audible is on its way. Well, I'm working on it. I am working on it, and it'll be available soon. But the first 3 versions are available, or platforms or types, if you will, through Amazon.com. There is a link on my website, richarddugan.com, that you can click on, and boom, it takes you right there. And we hope that you will do that. We also ask that if you would like to be a part of the work that we're doing, you'd like to help us out financially, we would be gratefully appreciative. We do have a PayPal account that is there for your security as well as ours. And if they don't put the field in there, sometimes it appears that they put my email address in there already, but if they don't, it's richard@richarddugan.com. And thank you to those who have helped and those who will help. We also ask that you take some time to spend it quietly in that calm, peaceful, still place, listening to that still small voice. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that as well as we begin this special edition with our regular guest, I should say guest host, so to speak, or co-host, Lumari of Lumari.com, author of Streams of Consciousness and Living Inspired with Lumari and many others. She even has a dating book for the women. I'm not sure, because I haven't read it. I don't know if it applies to me at all. Considering I'm married now, probably not. But anyway, she's got lots of good resources on her website, as well as a free meditation that you can download. It's an audio file, and I think it's only about 10, 12 minutes, something like that. And you just sit quietly and follow the guidance that Lumari provides in this free sacred space meditation. We hope that you will avail yourselves of that. And with that, Lumari, it is great to have you back here. And now we are into already, amazingly enough, the 10th month of 2024. This and 2 more, and we're out of here as far as 2024. Thanks for joining us this year. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, this has been a blast. I am so happy to be here. So happy to connect with you, Richard, and also everyone who's listening. It's just such a blessing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we have been covering a lot of different things over the last 9 months, and here we are in the 10th month. And there are some things that we're going to touch upon during the month of October. This particular program, we're going to talk about telling your story. Now, when I say your, I'm talking to you, the listener or the viewer, about sharing with others those aspects of your life and who you are that not only have made you who you are, but can actually inspire and uplift and encourage others in a manner of speaking, to continue to move forward in their lives with the dreams, their heart's desires, their life's purpose. If you found that, fantastic. I hope that you have discovered that, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But we're going to talk about what that means to tell one's story. Obviously, the title of this program, Tell Me Your Story. and how you can make it not only beneficial for those who would listen to and or read it, but also would be beneficial for you as the teller of the story, sharing those aspects of your life that have, brought you to this place where you're listening to this program. And I know that Lumari, you and I, we've had our ups and downs, and we're kind of wanting to focus more on the ups, those things that have really been profound in our lives to have experienced and learned from, and that we take forward. So I'm going to let you begin the conversation, if you will, by sharing with us your perspective on the importance of telling your own story.
Well, thank you, Richard. This is really great, because one of the things about our life, we have lots of stories. I mean, and every time you say it, I always laugh, because my father, whenever he would end a conversation, he would always say, "And that's the story there." So when we're talking about this, and he would, it was almost like it was the end of his radio program, right? Even though it was just a conversation. But he would tell you something from his life, and then he'd go, "And that's the story there." Mm. And it would be lots of different things that we would have conversations about when I was a kid, and what was going on in the world, and what was going on in people's lives and everything. And the importance is, first, that the most important thing when you're sharing your story with other people is you're sharing part of who you are. It's not just some, really cool commercial.
Right. Exactly.
I am, buy this, click this.
Yeah.
It's like you're really sharing a piece of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a relationship and intimacy, and also when you're sharing your story, especially like in the way that we do, there's a level of trust and generosity and gratitude in the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. And for example, within the context of my latest release, it's my first,
yes.
Choices, 5 Steps for Life. I talk about a process that my first wife and I went through, and it was actually September of 1993 when we bought our first house. And there was no real trauma or negativity or anything of that nature that happened, but it happened within a 30-day period, for starters. And though I had a general idea of what the process entailed, I didn't know the ins and outs, and I had a good friend who was a realtor who helped me through that. He told me, okay, here's what we need, and da-da-da-da-da. And the first thing that my first wife and I decided we would do, maybe I decided and I encouraged her, was we need to be focused. We need to be focused on what it is that we are doing here. Are we working with the realtor? Are we working with the appraiser? Are we working with the loan, the brokerage company, whatever, the insurance company, whatever the components are of that process? Or do we put something on it and verbalize it, stating this is what we're doing? And I came up with the phrase that we would repeat anytime we did run into certain little obstacles, and they were little by comparison to the big picture. We are buying a house. And we would repeat that over and over again. Now,
very cool.
The only bump in the road was the day of closing. And it was not a big bump. It was a very small one, but nonetheless, some people would go off the handle going, "What do you mean there's no homeowner's insurance? What are you talking? I went through da-da-da-da-da. I did this and this, and it should be there, And it's like, well, it's not here. Well, the plus, of course, that's why it was a little bump, was that the title company in this case had insurance policies they can tack on if it didn't come with, if the package didn't come with your own insurance policy, your homeowner's policy. So it was covered. It was a little more expensive, didn't change the monthly premium, or the mortgage or anything of that nature. And we could change it within, I think, 6 months or something. So it was like I could have gone nuts and saying, what? And I could call the company, which I did do, but I kept it low key because I knew, I'd been told already, don't worry, if they don't have it, we do, you're good, we're closing today. And we did.
Right.
And it worked out just fine. There's even a photograph in my book of that house with a tree in the front yard that I planted. And it's a big pine tree. Now, it was a small one when I first planted it, of course, but it was huge. It was big. It's taller than the house. But the point is that when I'm telling that aspect of my story and partially my first wife's, it's focusing on what it is that you want. And so when telling your story, those are the kinds of things that you want to incorporate, right?
Yes. Well, you want to be able to have it so that when you're sharing it, it's sometimes we're just having conversations. And it's important to know when you're just having a conversation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like you're writing in the book, you're sharing not only your story, but you're sharing the wisdom that you received from that event, circumstance.
That experience, yeah.
Whatever we want to experience. Thank you. And so it's important to be able to have those conversations, too, and know the difference, because sometimes we're just sharing what's happened.
Yeah.
You know, like I just talked about my father. Well, you know, nobody's going to think it's incredibly profound and life-changing that my father said that's the story there. Mm-hmm. It's just a fun anecdote because we're talking about stories. Now, if we're looking at, like, for me in my life, one of the things, because we've talked for a while, so you know I receive psychic guidance, you know I channel energies, you know I have, like, multiple, I like to call them psychic parties in my head, where all these different beings are there, right? Mm-hmm. And we're having conversations. It's kind of like, you know, like a Sunday afternoon where everybody's having brunch and we're all sitting and talking, and except it's in my head.
Yeah, I hear you.
And the thing is, like, sharing that is like, I didn't know that that's not how people think. Like, you have a certain thought process in your head that you have a thought, you follow the thought, maybe another thought interrupts it, but basically that's what's going on in your head. And for me, it wasn't. It was a conversation. So when I started sharing those things, I never shared it until I was in college because I didn't, you know, I didn't have those kind of conversations. And when I was having a conversation in my sculpture class, and I was doing wood carving, and I had the chisel in one hand and the hammer in the other hand, and then it wasn't working right, and I listened in my head, and I heard Michelangelo say, no, hold the chisel like this, and then when you hit the hammer like this. And so I did that, and my teacher came over and said, how did you know how to change that? You did a much better job. And I said, Michelangelo told me. And he looked at me and went, uh-huh. Okay, well, he told you how to do it right, and he walked away, and I'm like, why does he think that's weird? Because I didn't know that actually is not how everybody thinks.
Yeah.
But in sharing that, you get an anecdote about my life, but also you get a place to start to think about how you receive information and guidance that may not be how everyone else does. Because I was receiving it, and I had lots of conversations in my mind in art school. I would say, well, Monet, what do you think about these colors? Do you like this? What do you think? Rembrandt, what do you think? I would ask them. Mm-hmm. And when I told my dearest friend in college that I would do that, she's like, oh, you don't get it, do you? And I'm like, no, what? She goes, you're psychic. You're channeling. I'm like, really? Whoa. I didn't know.
Hmm.
But like as I share that, so one, you know that I kind of grew this way in my life, and I'm always having these conversations. But the other thing is, well, we all might be receiving messages and guidance in ways that aren't necessarily the average way of doing things, but also it opens you up to start an inquiry about how you receive information. Because when you're an artist and you know about music, so when you're an artist, you're receiving as well as creating. Like it's a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, the music comes to you and it's like, okay, one part of it is, yes, you did make it up. The other part of it is, no, you heard it. So how did you hear it? Did the universe give it to you? Did you make it up in your head? Is it a combination of both? Are you sitting there really going, Chopin is saying, I really wish I was a rock star. Let me see if I can write something. And you're listening to Chopin on the piano. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Right? And it could be all of those at the same time. But see, sharing that, like, now, how do we look at those things? What have we constructed about it that my conversation broke apart for you? Or you just thought it was hilarious and that's good enough.
Yeah. I think that kind of ties in with a certain aspect of telling one story. There are going to be certain parts of our story that are probably either modified or better left unsaid, at least for the time being.
Oh, yeah.
Partly because maybe some of the people that you might be talking about who were in that experience with you, okay, where you learned what you learned and you got the wisdom, they're still alive. And they may or may not take it real well. And I know that there are people who don't care. These were, I often say on this program when I share my observations of things, they're my observations. I am not putting them on anyone else. I'm just saying this is the way I see it right now. But that's not necessarily the way someone else might see it. And especially if it's a family member or a good friend that you're writing about. And even if it's not in a negative way, it's just, again, your perceptions of the relationship at that time in that experience. They may not care much for the way that's expressed. This is where the names have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty.
Exactly. Well, no, that's really good because a lot of times, too, for me, if I'm sharing experiences, except if it's with, my husband or my best friend or whatever it is, but if it's a conversation, I'm actually not using anybody's name.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sharing about more my perspective in what happened, as opposed to sharing it. And we're in a world right now where, let's just say there's less, the universe is giving me the word courtesy.
Yes, good word, universe, very good word.
When people are talking, it's like they're, throwing out names and not worrying about what the impact is and all of those other things. And it's a thing that's going on. But the stories that you and I are talking about are stories that can create a shift, that can inspire people, that show where we're thinking, playing, exploring, and in the wonderment.
Yeah.
And that is really important. While I may be able to say like, oh yes, I just shared that story. And so if you think in different ways, it doesn't mean you're thinking wrong. It means you think in different ways. And luckily for me, I had a lot of people in my life who just looked at me like I thought differently.
Yeah.
Like nobody tried to lock me up, at least initially. No, just kidding.
what's interesting about that is that I received a beautiful message from a good friend of mine, and I'll give this much information. We were neighbors when I was a kid growing up. His whole
Right.
family, all the kids, we all played in the yard and so on and so forth.
Right.
And I reconnected with one of his brothers through I think it was Facebook. Then we started texting independently of Facebook, and he communicated with his brother, his older brother, who was my age. He communicated with him. Oh, hey, I contacted Richard and da 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 da, and he's doing this and he's doing that and he's doing the other thing. To which the friend that I was communicating with,
Right.
relayed to me a text that his brother sent to him about me. That was very heartwarming for me, because it basically said that he never saw me as having a visual impairment, because I was out there playing with the rest of the kids just like everybody else was out there playing.
Right.
And I saved that. I mean, it means a lot to me. And one of these days, I might share it in a future writing or something. But again, I won't necessarily reveal his name. Needless to say, those are the kinds of things, and like you are talking about,
Right.
where my experience was in childhood with the family, with him, with his brothers and sister in the neighborhood. And the quote represents what someone else observed, what someone else experienced. And that was really kind of cool. And those are the kinds of things that are perfectly okay for me to share, but recognizing those aren't my words, those belong to someone else. So when we start to, and again, I know we're talking a lot here about the structure, if you will, the presentation, if you will, of telling your story. But I want to talk about another element, and that is, and you touched upon it just a few moments ago when the universe gave you the word courteous. It has nothing to do with courteous. It has to do with the fact that you received that information.
Right.
That is where we can discern or receive the discernment necessary to avoid future conflicts if we choose to tell our story, especially, let's say, in print. By checking in and saying, okay, I want to tell this part of my life. I want to share this experience. I want to share this wisdom. And you've written it in such a way that kind of tells who the experience was with.
Yeah.
And you check in with the universe, if you will, your higher self, your still small voice, and say, is this, in a manner of speaking, is this okay? Should I reword it? Should I eliminate it altogether?
Yes.
And I was even doing
really,
that
really important.
with materials that I was pulling from a journal that I was writing back in the late 90s. And I had placed 3 paragraphs in the book. And I was rereading it for the 3rd time, and I ended up highlighting it in red. Number 1, so I could find it quickly. And number 2, because because I had questions. I'm thinking, I wonder if I should. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, if you get that impression, I wonder if I should put that in there. Probably not.
Yeah. And it's really good that you're saying that, because I also do that. Even with my books, my last book, Streams of Consciousness, I wrote it years ago.
Yeah.
And every year I would tune in and I say, can I publish it now? Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I publish it now? Nope. Okay. It was like, because for me, one of the things is I really like writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, more book writing than article writing, right? And so if it comes to me, I'm writing it.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the folder.
Yeah. And you and I do the same. I've done the same thing as you, and it took me, I'm going to say, I'm going to narrow it closer to 15 years. It took me 15 years to finally publish the book. And the reason I shorten that up, because I used to say, well, it was 2001, she went through this experience, da-da-da-da-da. And so, it's 23 years, 22 years, 23, 24, whatever. Well, I didn't even think about writing it until probably, I don't know, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can't even remember when the initial idea came to me that, hey, write this.
Well, and the thing is that's beautiful about it, Richard, is that the book has to be ready to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, sometimes I'm looking at my books like they're actually people, and they're not ready to be out in the world yet. But I'm receiving the message, but it needs to have a time and place where that's coming.
Yeah.
And my relationship with the book, right, is also, okay, sometimes it's early, sometimes it's not, all those different things. It's like, well, it's a relationship, and this is the story. In streams of consciousness, it's channeled about our world and the universe, and we've spoken about this before, so if people haven't listened to those episodes, they really should go back and listen. But in the energy of it, but it was like, oh, but the world isn't ready for this right now. Okay, I'll wait, because I know the universe is going to tell me when it's time. And for you, the same thing. It's like the stories were there, but in this moment, this is when it was like, okay, now we can bring this out in the world. Now you can bring this out in the world. And it has, every single time you look at a book, no matter how long it's sat in your computer, you have a new relationship with the book every single time you go back to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the same thing with our stories.
Yeah.
We have a new relationship with our stories. I have a very, very positive attitude about things. So, and going back to college conversations again, I found out that you could get grants for doing your sculpture. And so I used to go to the library and do a ton of research. And then I would come back and I would go to some of my teachers and I said, I found a grant you can apply to. And they look at me like, no, you're researching your own grants. I'm like, yeah, I know, but if you get this grant, you'll probably get it faster than I would get this grant. And one of my teachers was a brilliant sculptor. Took the information, applied for the grant, got it. It was a lot of money. And he was doing these bronze sculptures all over the place. And he's looking at me and goes, I can't believe you just gave this to me. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? And he goes, because it's competition? I said, no, it's not. You won. It's yours. But that was me being me. I wasn't looking at it like, oh, if I apply and he gets it, he won and I lost. It's like, oh, no. He gets to shine in the world. That's what we need. Fantastic art that's going to be there forever. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of looking at things that the stories of who we are and how we play in the world. It's like, well, he was seriously, he was so dumbfounded about it, he was actually annoyed with me. Because it wasn't how it worked, right?
Yeah.
Like you compete for it and I'm like, no, I'm going to still apply. I just don't think I'm going to win. I think you are. I think you're going to get the big money. I might get a commendation or something, but this, I think, and he goes, it doesn't work like that. And I went, well, I guess it does today. Unless you don't want this. And we're like, oh, no, I'll take it. But these are the kind of stories, it's like, I wasn't worried about that part.
Yeah.
I just saw him in it. And it's the same thing when we're looking at the different stories in the world where people invite people to be in their band, and all of a sudden the band goes crazy, right? Because it's so good because they needed that one person. Or your teacher in school looked at you and said, oh, you could really do this, because they saw something in you. And they brought you to that. And it's your story, and it's their story. And then it becomes like how many of us had people who looked at us and saw something completely different and supported us in that.
Yeah.
I mean, those are part of our story, our inspiring stories that also lift our vibration to be. Because it supports the being within you.
Exactly. There's an interesting aspect. My mother has actually read the book.
Yay!
And of course, she texted me when it arrived. She sent us this wonderful thank you card, not exclusively for the book, because her birthday was on the 17th of September, and I wanted it there by then, but it didn't arrive until the day after, which was okay. So she's thanking us for the gift for her birthday, and then of course she thanked us for a copy of my book. But she texted me, and the first thing that she said, in addition to "I've read your book, and I learned things about you I did not know that I've always wanted to know." Now, and I thought, wow, I didn't realize that I had withheld those pieces of information that are in the book from you. It wasn't intentional. But again, we don't always talk about everything with, parents or siblings and so forth.
Well, and they're different perspectives as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so nice to hear. But she said something else in reference to our I called her about a week or so later, and we chatted a bit, and she thanked me again, and was very proud of the fact that I had done this. And we were talking about how, because I think I've talked on this program about how I'm content with where I'm at, as far as the finances, and I want more. And then I got real specific, and I said, and I want more, and I want to start with $100,000. And she says, and I says, I don't know if this book is going to sell big or not. And she says, you know what? It really doesn't matter. She says, because what you can say now is that you have actually written and published your first book. And she was very excited about that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doesn't matter. At one level, it does not matter how it does financially, because now it's out there. And
this is the thing, Richard, because I have books out there, right? So I want you to know this. You will be really surprised at what people say and what they discover from your book. You will be really surprised, because I've had people write me, email me, etc., and they find something in the book that inspired them, transformed them, changed them, however we want to use that. And it wouldn't necessarily be something that I would say, this is going to be a benefit when you understand this, this, and this. I had somebody just email me a few days ago. They'd read Streams of Consciousness. One of the streams inspired them, and what she wrote was, I was resonating, buzzing like crazy, and then I knew I needed to buy that house. And I made an offer on the house because she read a chapter in the book. And the book has nothing to do with buying a house, right? It has nothing to do with any of those things, but whatever opened up in her because of what she read and what she felt and understood, it opened up her possibility to go and buy a house. Which, it's not like she was one of my clients who shared this with me, because then I would know more about her.
Right.
It was just like, she shared that. She sent me the email. She said, "Thank you very much. Totally changed my life. I'm going furniture shopping." Like, okay.
I like it.
But your book is going to do that as well. The stories, they may not look at it like some people, what we just talked about. So some people might say, oh, I listened to Lamari and she talked about the way she thought and how those things happen, and I realized I think similarly, and so that opened this up for me. Or somebody could look at it and say, well, no, I don't think like that, but I never really thought about appreciating how I think. So it's a completely different thing. It inspires them in a different way. We don't know that. But in sharing that part of your story, you have no idea how that vibrates into people's lives and uplifts and changes them in ways that we will never understand.
This is true because, again, everybody sees things differently. They take it in differently. And, I mean, I even listen to some of the because I love listening to comedy. And some of it is very intriguing. Some of it's very provocative because of the subject matter it's dealing with. And yet they manage to weave humor into the poignancy of what they're saying. And I can see where a certain group of people would be very upset over them making fun of or joking about. And it's like, well, but if you can't, and I love this phrase, if you can't laugh at yourself, I can't remember the rest of that saying, but we need to learn to be able to laugh at ourselves. And even though it's like I even said in one of my interviews to a guest who was confronting some of my observations. And I said after he shared his observation, well, there goes another one of my straw huts up in flames, which those straw huts represent the different pillars of my philosophy. And I'm willing to burn them all to the ground and start over if necessary, because I live by that philosophy that begin in doubt. It's better to begin in doubt and end in certainty than begin in certainty and end in doubt, which is what a lot of people do who are absolutely 100% certain about what it is, not that they know, but what they believe. And so when I share in the 2024 version of Choices, is where I'm at in 2024. But I may put out the second or third edition in 26 or 28 or 30, and there may be some changes because I've had other experiences, and now I'm going to share those in the context of the book and saying, hey, it's been 2, 4, 6 years. I've changed my philosophy about da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I have a feeling that that's also an unfortunate negative, specifically when and again, I'm not going into the subject, don't get me wrong, especially though when it comes to politicians. And 10 years ago, their position was. 5 years ago, it was. 2 years ago, it was. And now it's this. And then, of course, they're accused of flip-flopping. And it's
and the thing is, people evolve. We have to recognize that. And the thing is, when we're talking about not any specific politics, because we know we're not doing that.
That's right.
But the thing is, if you're holding on to something that is ancient, then you're not looking at the possibilities of what we can do. And we can look at it very easily. It's like, okay, we build homes differently than we did, 2,000, 5,000, whatever years ago. I'm not a builder, so I don't know how many times it's changed. But I'm pretty sure the tools are different now than they were before they had electricity, and how they build things and how they come together and how they're designed and, all of those other things. We're in a process of evolution. So, I agree with you. Like, I look at it like I'm in curiosity. So even though I know I've had these experiences and I know these things came from it, I also know my experiences are evolving. Yeah. And what I learned way back, some of it is not rigid. It just keeps on shifting, but it is the same energy. Like, I'm really clear connecting with the universe and listening to those conversations. Conversations may be different because I may be smarter, but I'm still connecting and listening.
Exactly.
And I'm still in the inquiry because I really love wonder and curiosity.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it beyond the other stuff. And it may come from the fact that I channel. It may come from the fact that, I grew up as an artist. And as an artist, you're curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to change. Whatever you think you're working on is going to change.
Oh, absolutely.
Until you decide you're done.
And I even said that.
And then, of course, there's something new coming.
Exactly. And that's what I said to my eldest sister many years ago at my parents'. I've told this story many times. It was Thanksgiving, and we were standing in the kitchen while my mother was trying to make Thanksgiving dinner. Wrong place, wrong time for this conversation. But she was challenging me on my perspective, my philosophy, religiously, spiritually.
Mm.
And I said to her, but my beliefs of yesterday are not my beliefs of today, are not my beliefs of tomorrow. Because I'm still here, I'm still alive, I'm still experiencing, I'm still meeting new people and having new experiences and going new places and so forth. And matter of fact, what flew into my mind just now was when my wife, my second wife, and I, Amrita and I went to Ireland for the second time, and we were on one of the islands, the Aran Islands, and we were in one of the big old cemeteries where they, all these things. And the night before, I'd had this audible dream of our dear friend Dave, who had passed away in our home some years ago, a year earlier, and the voice said, "Don't say anything bad around Bridget." And there we are in the cemetery, and I'm looking at this altar, this stone altar, with what I jokingly said was the first wheel. It was this circular stone with a hole in it. And she says, "You need to come over here." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And she read the tombstone. By the way, I did take a picture of it. I do have a photograph of it. And
Good.
The name on the stone, not only was it my wife's her maiden name, but the first name of the person buried under that stone was Bridget. And I put my hand over my mouth and I walked away.
Yeah.
But it's those kinds of experiences where the universe is always talking to you, us.
Yeah.
But are we listening? And then that becomes part of our story.
Well, definitely. I mean, there's so many things that go on. There's so much synchronicity. And part of the story is listening to yourself inside it. So, like I had said to you, I'm crazy optimistic. I have no idea why.
You just are.
You
just are.
Exactly. And so when I have been critiqued, or because I like the word critique as opposed to criticize.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have been critiqued and I looked at it, I look at it like, oh, that's input. No, I will agree or not agree, depending, because I have my own perspective. But, it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Being critiqued is not being slammed. That's a whole other thing. We're not talking about that. But it's like, oh, well, if I look at it and I go, oh, that's a new way of looking at this, even though I may have been playing in this for a while. And it's a new way of looking at my life story and all the different parts of it, because some of it has changed me in my life, substantially. And yet, as I share different pieces, that can help other people look at themselves in a different way. And for me, that I want them to have freedom and opportunity and new perspectives to shift into a higher vibration of their own being, so that our stories and how we share and the books that we write and everything opens something for people that they may have been curious about, and now they have access to it, or they may never have thought of that before, and they can look at it and go, oh, I'm going to really think about that. I'm going to see where that guides me and how that fits into my life, whether it's 10 minutes later, they're bored already, so it change their life, or it's something that they keep on going back to. Because I've had people tell me that some of my first books, I have people who've said to me they read my first book, Alawashka, once a year. Well, it came out in 2000. So that's a lot of years of reading. But they read it every year because there's something in the book that shifts for them. And, and it's like we have so much to play in with our stories and our sharing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I know you have people in your life who have said something to you, and it was just a comment or a compliment, and it changed you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And what's really interesting is the change that came about was based, interestingly enough, on what would be conceived of as a rather traumatic experience. Once again, I've shared this before too, where in I'm going to say the early 1990s, working for the Christian station out at the transmitter site, I had moved some furniture in the building, in the transmitter room, to vacuum. And my boss showed up. I can't even remember what the reason was that he was there for, why he came out. But he went off the handle because I had moved the furniture. And the knowledge that I had moved it in order to clean went right out of my mind. And he took me into another room and he reamed me a new one. I mean, I thought he was going to punch me.
Wow.
And 3 days later, I finally said, you need to come out here. We need to talk. And I shared with him what had happened. And he could not have been more apologetic. Well, move that forward, almost 10 years. And the station he was managing was purchased by a company that had purchased the station that I was then working for. And we were installing some new equipment, and the new chief engineer, I was saying, no, we can't do this because the manufacturer said blah, 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 blah. And I was going based upon information that I'd been given from the company that supported this software and hardware. And he quit because I wouldn't let him do what he wanted. And so I get called into the conference room, and of course the original general manager from the first experience was in a room, sitting there, not saying a word. And the general manager of the new station that I was working for, he circled the conference room once again, not screaming and yelling, but rather loudly, saying, hey, what do you think you're doing? Blah, 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 blah. Well, this time I sat there in what's called open body posture, where I'm sitting there back straight, feet on the floor, hands on my knees. And I had to do everything in my power to keep from laughing, because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, and he was going off on this, and I just had to sit there and listen. I didn't take it in, and that was the difference this time.
Right.
I didn't take it in. So there are two experiences, one which was very traumatic, but got it cleaned up. The second one that was not traumatic at all, it was actually humorous to me, because this particular manager was usurping, was basically exercising his power as general manager, rather than investigating as to why we hadn't moved forward, which I certainly would have told him. Anyway, so those are the kinds, those kinds of experiences that we talk about when we tell our stories, that hopefully inspire people to say, look, okay, in this case, you've had a traumatic experience 10 years ago. And now you're having something similar. What did you learn from the first experience 10 years ago that you can bring into this experience? And in my case, it was, hey, then I didn't do anything wrong. Now I didn't do anything wrong. Only this time, I'm not taking it in. It's not mine. I refuse to own it. So those are the kinds of wonderful things that I love to remember, whether it's within my family, my mother, father, and sisters and brother, school, when I was a paper boy for 5 years, wherever it is. I mean,
exactly.
And I have to say that when I look back on some of these experiences the ones that come to mind, I don't try to dig. It's like, if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, move on.
Yeah.
I want to share them, not because of necessarily anything based in ego, as much as it came to mind for a reason. Somebody is listening to what I'm saying and needs to hear this.
Yes.
And that's the other part of telling one story and determining, again, getting the guidance from the universe as to whether or not it should be shared.
Well, and that's so important also because being in that space of listening to the guidance and then also sharing, that's how we're creating and shifting in our world.
Yeah.
And so whether for me, because I have clients that I work with my channeling and intuitive gifts, and it's all different areas of their life. But there will be things that come to me that really and truly aren't necessarily having anything to do with what we're talking about. Like in the moment, I have a message that comes to me, or a thought, however it is, and I'll share it. And I'll just say, listen, I don't know if it's appropriate for now. It might be something you think about next week, but I'm getting this guidance to share.
Right.
And in our, and I love doing that because a lot of times my clients, it's hilarious because I'm getting guidance that, no, we're not looking at that for their life or their business or their purpose, but it comes in and it's exactly what breaks apart or inspires them or shifts them, even though it wasn't part of the situation that we were talking about.
Right.
And that's also part of, the stories that we have. They're not programmed. I did this and then I did this and here's my story. No, the stories that we share are the ones that are idiosyncratic, and then they still shift our world. It's something that comes in where we might have expected something to happen and it didn't, and that was the bonus. Thank you very much. I'm glad it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was like something happened that we weren't expecting and it completely changed our lives and it wasn't even anything that we were interested in.
Yeah.
And yet all of a sudden there's a shift there because when we're sharing our stories, there's an openness there. We experienced it, but it wasn't like, a linear experience where first you do this, then that happens, then you do this, then that happens, then you do this, and this is why your life is like this. Not like that.
Right.
Not like that.
Well, we have come to the wrap-up of our conversation here about telling one's story. And I know Lumari joins me in saying, look, tell your story in whatever platform, format, etc. that you choose to, that is comfortable for you to do. And we certainly hope that we have an opportunity to hear or read your story somewhere down the road that will inspire us and inspire others. And Lumari, I thank you for joining us here. We'll be back here next Wednesday at the same time.
I am so excited to be here, Richard. And I'm going to say this, everybody, look at Richard's book and see what stories he has. This is the guy that says, tell me your story. And now he's telling his.
Absolutely.
So I think you should go read it.
Absolutely. I would encourage you to do so, folks. And as some would say, what have you got to lose? It's not that expensive for one, especially the Kindle right now. We hope that you will avail yourselves of it, and we hope that you will continue to join us here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. To my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.